here we go. NHL Today, right here on SportsGrid. Mike Carver here with you. Of course, our weekly look around the National Hockey League, but really it's around hockey because the National Hockey League, they're closed for business for 2 weeks. I mean, you've got to absolutely be kidding me, but there is hockey going on. The Four Nations, which has been happening in Montreal the last couple of days. They're going to shift to Boston next week. We've got this massive USA-Canada game on Saturday night. So there is a lot to discuss, and there is a lot of slips to be put in at the window for this Four Nations tournament that we do have going on. So like I said, Mike Carver with you. And I got a little extended edition today. You know Dave Sharapan, the sportsbook consigliere, joins us every week on NHL Today. I shortchanged him last week. I didn't give him his full amount of time. So I'm extending his time this week to make up for what happened last week. And then he comes in full Montreal gear with all these games going on in Montreal. He's all about it. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Great to see you, Mike. It's all good. Sometimes, when you're playing hockey, you got to take a shorter shift and, let the guys play that are doing something or have a better matchup. So I took a short shift last week. It's fine. It wasn't Luke's fault. It wasn't Vinny's fault. It was nobody's fault. Just tap the helmet, said get off the ice. Let Carver take this one home. We did. It was all good. It was there's a lot of nuggets covered every Friday when we do this show. We go back and forth, pass the puck. I feel like we're like out at the point, just kind of passing it back and forth, waiting to take that shot where we crash the net. If it goes in from the point, that's fine. If it doesn't, we both get in a slot, push the defenseman out of the way, and push the puck in the net.
That's what you have to do sometimes. I agree with you. Sometimes that does have to happen, or you could be like McKinnon and cry about how long the overtime is at the end, tapping out in the helmet. This is a little too long, these 10-minute overtimes that they're going to play. But that's because they always want the best players out there. We need more of it. You're right. They should extend the regular season to 10 minutes instead of 5. You get a lot more winners, and there'd be almost no shootouts at that point. In fact, they should do what they're doing in this to begin with. 3 points for a regulation win, 2 points for the overtime win, 1 point for the overtime loss. That's how the NHL should honestly start doing things as well, Dave. I like the point system that they have, and that's how they should run it in the regular season.
100%. Let's sign for that immediately. I think it will change the mentality of teams protecting a 1-goal lead and or trying to get to overtime. I think it will lead to better third period hockey and a lot more, I don't want to say movement in the standings, but the standings become so jumbled as we get closer to the end of the season in March and the trade deadline. I think teams will know their path about whether we're really contenders or not a lot better. And I think it'll help maybe facilitate a trade or two because, we'll talk about that a little bit as well. I mean, people have been asking me, is Sid going to get moved? No. Sid, in the first game with Canada, that was awesome. A great moment, bringing Lemieux out there. I had goosebumps. As a Penguin guy, I was like, oh, baby, here we go. 4-3 final, but a goal on the first shift after a penalty that, it was kind of ticky-tacky. But listen, that behind-the-back pass and McKinnon finishing, I jumped off the couch, Mike. I was ready to go.
It's super lethal what they throw out there, Canada, on that power play. When you talk Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid, McCarr, all the I guess Reinhart was kind of getting something. They have so many guys that they could put out there and will cause you a lot of problems. I think the biggest thing people were wondering about, Dave, going into this thing was, will the players care? Will it be more of an exhibition? Will it be? And you're seeing it. When you put best on best out there and you put the flag on the front of the jersey, I know this doesn't have the importance of the Olympics. I get that. But I still think that for a lot of these guys who haven't gotten to do this before because there hasn't been the Olympics, they haven't sent the NHL guys to the Olympics the last few times, you can tell they're into it. I thought both games, the Canada-Sweden game and even the U.S.-Finland game, although it got out of control in the third period, I thought both games had high intensity. I thought both games saw exactly what you wanted to see. It was excellent hockey, and it blows away, Dave, any kind of nonsense that they usually do with All-Star Weekend and the. And listen, that stuff used to be cool when I was a kid. I liked All-Star Saturday Night. I thought, but they've watered it down and wrecked it so much that this is awesome. Doing this instead of the All-Star game is great.
I'm not even the first one afraid to admit it. I don't need to see another NHL All-Star game. If you're going to give me this, sign me up for this. That was intense. There were face washes. There were cross checks. There was physical play. There was a lot of yapping going on. The intensity was there. I don't know if this is the answer for other leagues or what, but I know for hockey, if you tell the players it's going to be best on best, and we just throw out a puck on a pond somewhere, we're playing to win, and we're going to hit you, and we're going to do what we can to win. You give them this stage, and you put them all together, and you say, you'll have time off after. It's fine. Play hard, play to win. I'm in. I'm sold no matter what happens the rest of the way. And we got two great games on Saturday. I mean, Finland, yes, it got away from them. And the Tkachuk brothers took over hockey last night for the U.S. That was great. And now Sweden-Finland will set up great for an elimination game. I mean, Finland can't lose, and if they lose, they're done because of the point system. So Sweden getting that overtime loss, got that extra point. Now their game with, the U.S. in Boston will be great. But the USA-Canada game, Mike, it's appointment viewing. Clear the calendar.
It certainly is, and I'm going to give you all those numbers when we do the next segment for both of those games on Saturday. I do want to give you the updated to win the whole thing, the Four Nations face-off after each team has played one game. Now, USA and Canada, Dave, they were both in the 140-150 range before this thing started. U.S. has moved to now even money because they have a full 3 points, a full win, a full regulation win. They're ahead of everybody, so they're closer to that playing that title game. Canada plus 150, Sweden 6-1, and then Finland, of course, gets banged down to 25-1 because they are absolutely in the hole now as opposed to trying to make that game. So you look at it, we know that, and we'll talk about the implications of how big this Saturday night game is. I still think, Dave, we're on a collision course, no matter what happens with these two on Saturday night, for seeing United States and Canada a second time Thursday in Boston for the championship.
Which is okay with me. I'm okay with that. Now, Sweden can mess it up, but Sweden, I believe, is going to have to win in regulation in one of the games and probably tie, and get to overtime in the other one at minimum, depending on how the game Saturday night goes. It's good hockey. The U.S., that goaltending. Hellebuck is going to play like that, Mike. He lets in that first goal, and everybody's like, oh, here we go. Cancel my Winnipeg Jets futures. The game's a pick 'em. The book has to move that number, Mike, to what it is, not because they think the U.S. is going to win, but because the U.S. looks like they're going to be in that final. I think if we see this game again in Boston that we see Saturday night, the line's almost exactly the same.
Well, and as you know, it's going to be a very, very, very home crowd for Canada on Saturday night in Montreal. They were booing the United States players in the Finland game. You can tell everyone showed up for Finland-U.S. just to boo against the United States. NHL today, Mike Carver along with Dave Sharapan. We're back. We'll look at Saturday's numbers after this.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You want me to solve all this tush-push and fourth down malarkey that goes on with the officials? Here's a crazy idea. Get rid of the worst rule in the NFL, and that is forward progress. How about this? Where I knock your ass in the ground is where the ball goes, period. Let's end this whole conversation. Like, if I drop you back 4 yards, then you lost 4 yards. If we get rid of forward progress, this tush-push and everything else is taken care of. Where I put your tail on the ground is where the ball goes, end of conversation. It's the dumbest rule and the most arbitrary rule. The only thing that is a worse call in the NFL than forward progress is the punt that goes out of bounds when you watch the official walk down the sideline having absolutely no clue where that ball crossed over. All I can think of is that Price is Right game go do-de-do-de-do, do-de-do-de-do, as he's walking down the sideline, arbitrarily trying to figure out where the ball crossed over because he's got no clue.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And we are back, NHL Today, right here on SportsGrid. Mike Carver here with you. Dave Sharapan, the sportsbook consigliere, joining as always here on NHL Today. And we're double shifting him today. I don't think he's going to complain like McKinnon did after the 10-minute overtime for Canada and Sweden the other night. We can't do this, so we got to shorten this thing up. Calm down, buddy. Calm down. You didn't even play the whole 10 minutes. You scored and you won. So everybody relax. Let's get to Saturday. Yep. Doubleheader here. Both games in Montreal. We've got a matinee. We've got the big nightcap. Let's start early with the first game, of course, which will be Sweden and Finland. So, everybody's going to be talking about what a big USA, Canada, hated rivals in hockey, bigger. This is also, Dave, what you'd like to call a blood feud over in Europe, because Sweden and Finland have obviously had huge moments in the Olympics in the past. They're right next to each other. There is a lot going on with these two hockey nations. Sweden right now, I actually even have it bumped up a little bit more from a few hours ago, minus 215. I'm seeing the Swedes at. Finland at plus 176. That total at 5.5. Pretty much 110 both ways on the total. Laying the puck and a half with Sweden at plus $1.26 and minus 154 if you want the goal and a half with the Finns.
It's crazy because out here in Vegas, it's minus 190. So You're seeing a little bit of a disparity between East Coast, West Coast lines with the hockey, which doesn't happen that often. I'm not surprised by the total, Mike. I feel like this game will be an under game. Finland played so close to the vest, especially when they got the lead. I mean, that game was 1-1 late in the second period, and goal right before the period, and then it opens it up in the third. I think this will be chippy. I think this will be contested. I think this will be a competitive game. I don't think either team, I wouldn't lay the puck line in this one. I don't think it's going to be that type of game. I think bettors might make the mistake that, Finland got crushed by the U.S. They're going to get crushed by Sweden. I don't think so. Saros let in a couple goals. I mean, they all weren't his fault. But that one wrister from the point that went in, it looked like he should have had, and it kind of swung the momentum. Do you like a side or a total in this one?
I kind of like Finland with the goal and a half. It's a little pricey, but it feels like the type of game that, like you say, it's going to be – I think both these games, on the surface, people are going to expect a little grinded out rivalry, more at stake now after everybody's played a game. You kind of know what's on the line for you. This is everything for Finland, because if they lose this game, Monday's useless to them. They're going to be out of this thing. So they need to put up their best effort And I think for me, Dave, that means maybe what we saw in the Canada-Sweden game, maybe a little extra skating into another session, which could give that goal and a half is going to be there for you.
Oh, an overtime bet would be a fun bet to make. Will
Plus
there be
300.
overtime? Right?
Plus
Hey, that
300 for the
one
overtime.
might be live, actually. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that one might be live.
I think both games, if you wanted to have a little bonus dart throw, single bet on both games, I would tell you one thing, if probably both about plus 300. I know Sweden, Finland is. I'm sure USA, Canada is probably in that same area. I think you get one of them. You play them both for overtime. I think at least one of them you might get there.
As a fan, sign me up for both. I would love to see both games go to overtime. But I think you're right. I think you can take a shot and get one of them, and at least have a chance in the third period of going into the third period. Both of them having a chance to go to overtime. That would be fun. Boy, I'm chomping at the bit to talk about the next game, Mike.
Let's do the night game.
Oh, baby.
USA, Canada. This will be just now they say 8:00 as you found out on Thursday night. That's about 8:25 by the time they actually start the game and get going. But I have this same as our board here right now on the East Coast, minus 110, pick them both ways. I have a 6.5 total, plus 104 to the over, minus 128 to the under. Lay the goal and a half with Canada, plus 220. Get the goal and a half. This is a pick'em game. I mean, both the puck line is going to be astronomical on either side.
It is. And half the books out here in Vegas this morning have 6 with over juiced. Half the books have 6.5 with the under juiced. So I think there's a real divide as far as the total goes. You know, you can see an under game. Some people will see an over game. I don't want to say it. The officials may decide this one. If they let them play, and we don't got to worry about power plays, then, all right, it's a complete pick'em game. If the officials call this one close and or give someone an extra power play or two, both power plays are lethal. Lethal. So I think the total corresponds to the number of power plays in the game. All square, 5-on-5. Mike, I like Canada. I really do. Only because they're deeper. Now, the U.S. looks more physical, but if all things being said are equal, player-wise, man, a Canadian team, 4 lines deep, I think they might be just a little better.
I actually think the United States is deeper on the forward line. I would take their 4 lines, more specifically their bottom 6. I think the bottom 6 on the United States is a little bit better than the bottom 6 on Canada. That's just me. Now I think the defense. You took the 3 defensive pairs. I lean to Canada. Probably when you start talking about, you want to go like unit by unit breakdown of these two teams. I think that Canada's a little better on that side. I think U.S. is a little better on the bottom 6. And we were just talking about how great Canada's power play. You brought it up. USA ain't nothing to sneeze at either. When you talk about bringing Hughes and Matthews and Eichel, and you put all those guys on the ice, I know it's not as flashy as McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, but it's just as dangerous. Power plays will determine this total. I think this game is a grinded out, dead under, Dave. But if there's a bunch of power plays in the game, anything's possible.
We'll know early, right? We'll know early. It'll be an in-game dream. Betting it, watching it, the speed of the game alone, I can't even believe it. Watching it is just a fascinating watch.
Will we get a rematch on Thursday night? Quickly, 5 seconds.
Yes.
Dave Sharapan, the Sportsbook Consigliere. We're back. NHL Today.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs had a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
And we are back, NHL Today, right here on SportsGrid. Mike Carver here with you. Our weekly look at everything going on in the pucks. As we know, the NHL is off for a couple of weeks. They actually will return next Saturday. So next Saturday, which I believe is the 22nd, off the top of my head. Yes, I'm right about that. Saturday the 22nd, you will get the NHL back, full schedule, everything going on. And obviously going forward, that's where we'll focus. But we do have the Four Nations face-off, which we are deep into right now. And we just talked, me and Dave, about these 2 monster matchups on Saturday, rivalry Saturday, I guess you could call it, with the Four Nations. First game is at 1 o'clock East. Both games are in Montreal. And here's what I'm going to do in the first game for us. Finland and Sweden for the 1 o'clock start. You heard me, Dave. Dave sounds like he likes the under in the first Finland-Sweden game. I actually lean a little bit more to the over. I know Saros had a very rough third period. I think that Sweden's a little bit more dynamic than Finland. I think that they're going to be able to score some goals in this game. You saw a 4-3 game with them in Canada the other night. I like the over. And there's some guys on Finland who can put the puck in net. Rantanen, etc., which I'm actually going to go with him as well in this game. Rantanen to score plus 270 and Nylander to score for Sweden at plus 200. Nylander's looking around. His teammates, Marner scores a big goal of course, for Canada the other night in overtime. I don't think that Matthews is going to be held down for much longer, as I'm going to tell you in a moment. So I think that Nylander gets involved on the Swedish side. I like the over. I didn't really pick a side. I told Dave I like Finland plus the 1.5. It's a little pricey, but I think that that's where I'm going to lay my head when it comes to Saturday afternoon. I like the total more. And, of course, we love playing the goal scorer props here on NHL Today. Didn't throw the power play points this time. This is a little too tricky with these best-on-best situations for the power play. The night game, USA and Canada. I think USA's better. I think it's very tough that they got to play this one in Montreal. I think they're going to play again next week in Boston for the whole shebang. But I will go USA minus the 110 in this game against Canada on Saturday night. And I love the under. I think this is a 2-1 hockey game. I think that you're going to see intensity. You saw the USA guys talk about it Thursday night after the game. The Kachuk brothers, everybody. The Canada guys have talked about it. First time for a lot of the younger players on both of these teams that they're playing in an enormous best-on-best USA-Canada game. So I am going to go under 3-2, 2-1. It's that type of game in Montreal on Saturday night. But even though I like the under, I splash a couple guys to score. I said Austin Matthews, we want to get him on the page. I think you'll get him on the page. Plus 190 for him. And we're going to go one more deeper option because this guy's a big game goal scorer. And I could see him, will 1-1 game, mid-third period, JT Miller at plus 460 for the United States. I could see him showing up. My guy Brock Nelson hit the crossbar the other night, and he was in the high 300s to score. Maybe we get JT Miller there at plus 460 to get it done. So I do think Finland with the goal and a half. I do think Sweden will probably win, but I like Finland with the puck line. And then USA to beat Canada. They will then play on Monday. Here's how this tournament wraps up to give you the roadmap. Monday, same thing. 2 games, but now in Boston. That is, of course, President's Day holiday. Canada and Finland will play on Monday afternoon, 1 o'clock East. Look at that. You already got the numbers. Minus 360 for Canada on Monday afternoon. Now, these could change a little bit depending on what happens on Saturday. Finland plus the 280 right now. 5.5 total. And then Monday night, you will get Sweden and the United States. Also some lumber here. Minus 260 for the Americans. Plus 210 for Sweden. Another 5.5 total. A lot could happen here. You know that. I don't think that number will be as big. If Sweden wins on Saturday afternoon, United States loses on Saturday night, there's going to be Sweden's going to have a chance to punch their ticket to the championship game. So that could be a very tricky game for the U.S. I think the U.S. needs to take care of their business on Saturday night, and they win and they're going to have a spot, and that Sweden game will mean nothing to them. It might mean everything to Sweden on the other side of things, depending on what they do. Great job today. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of this Four Nations face-off. The hockey is excellent. Lots of opportunities. We've hit some goal scorers already in the first couple games. Hopefully we can keep that going on Saturday. Nice job by Dave Sharapan, the sportsbook consigliere. Great job by Tommy and Luke and all of the crew. We will be back. NHL back next Saturday. NHL Today will be there for you right here on the grid. Mike Carver with you. See you next time.
At some point, these ADs are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience, who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
only on SportsGrid.